Good Saturday afternoon, folks. Thanks for taking time today to join us for this webinar. We're going to equip you guys and gals on buying an RV. So if that's the place you signed up for, we're going to help you out. Brought a couple of experts along over here that I'm going to introduce you to in just a second once we get people logged in. So while you're getting logged in, please find the chat area. It's over there. It's got the little speech bubbles if you don't see it. And put in your name. Well, your name will automatically appear. Just tell us what city you're watching from. It'll be fun for us to see, and we'll give some shout outs here in a second while we get everybody gathered up, and we'll start rocking on the 5 big buying mistakes that you can avoid. So thanks for joining us today. And we have Diane. Hello, Diane. She already jumped in, says hello. And while you're putting those in, so to my left, all the way over to the side of the screen here. In fact, actually, let me make you guys bigger just for a second here so we can see you there. So there. Okay, Solomon is all the way on the right. Solomon Richardson, thanks for joining us, taking time out of your. Yeah, appreciate you taking time, guys. And Dustin, Bray in the middle. Both these guys have been helping people with lots and lots of RVs and have been seeing all kinds of things and have camping experience, all kinds of stuff. So, and myself, man, I love camp stuff. Ever since I was born, my first memories are my parents taking me out in my dad built a camper on the back of our truck, and then we pulled a travel trailer. So I had like a topper that he hand built, and up in British Columbia, Canada. I had some good memories. I remember one night asking my mom if I could sleep in the back of that truck camper because I was scared. And the next morning, my dad and my 2 older brothers said, there's bear tracks around our campground. And so that was when I was glad that we had the RV, the homemade RV. So I've been a big fan. It saved my life. And so we're going to learn how to not get ripped off when we're buying RVs. But real quick, out to our friends, Darian in Cape Cod. Very cool. Christina, Massachusetts. Dennis in Huntsville. We have David in the Phoenix area. Must be nice and warm down there. We're all of us are in Ohio. I'm up in Cleveland. Dustin's down near Columbus and Lakeview, Ohio. Armenta in Philly. Greetings, John, in Port Orange, Florida.
We're actually just down the road from Huntsville, Ohio. I'm assuming Dennis is from Huntsville, Alabama, being the other Huntsville that I know about.
Nice. Greetings, Robert, in Chattanooga, Christy in Aberdeen, South Dakota, Debbie in Kansas City, Michael, Naples, Florida, another nice Florida one. Very cool. Well, let's jump right in. I don't want to take more time. I'm excited. We have a lot to accomplish. And this is the place in this chat area I wanted to get you familiar. Don't be afraid to just pop questions in there as we go throughout. So we'll have this recorded, and we'll send you a replay afterwards in case you want to go back and listen to it again or you miss some parts. But yeah, drop the questions in there. And what do you guys think? So the first big buying mistake a lot of people make is not asking for that out the door price. Dustin, you want to talk about that? I'm going to bring up some slides and we'll dig right in.
Absolutely. So it's very important that you get that out the door price. And what an out the door price is the price that you are actually intending to finance or pay outright. Okay. That is your out the door price. It is not the listed price on the RV, because nobody, no matter where you're seeing a listed price, it's going to be for the unit only. So that's not going to include any fees. That's not going to include sales tax. That's not going to include any discounts. Anything that could be included there that would modify that out the door price is not listed as part of the unit price. Okay. A lot of places even list the unit price without including the options that specific model has been selected with. So they may list a unit price that is just a basic factory listing price instead of the actual custom build price that you're looking at in front of you. Okay. So it's important that you ask for that price for a couple of reasons. One, so that you know exactly what you're paying for, right? When you get an out the door price, it should be itemized. It should show you the price of every option and every feature, or every option and every fee that you're paying for. And then the other reason why it's so important to get that is so that you can compare apples to apples. Okay. And what I mean is, if you are only looking at the listed prices being displayed on websites and you're cruising around and that's how you're doing your pricing and your shopping, there's a good chance you're missing out on some of the better deals. A really good, for instance, is anybody who's doing wholesale or minimal, minimal acceptable or advertised pricing, right?
Yeah. MAP pricing.
Yep. MAP pricing. So MAP pricing being the agreed upon minimum price that a dealer can list a product at from a manufacturer. And if you're not actively hunting for pricing around that point or below, then you're going to miss out on some. Okay. And why I mean that is, if you're afraid to request a quote from somebody because they're not showing a listed price, you might be washing over or walking right past an excellent deal. Okay, because they may have an agreement where they're not allowed to advertise it, but they can offer you a better price. So it's very important to get that out the door price, if for nothing else, for transparency between you and who you're planning to do business with.
Yeah, that's good. One big part is you don't want to get to the end of your sale and say you start off by putting down a deposit. You order an RV, it comes in, and then you go to pick it up, and then you're sitting there getting ready to sign the final paperwork on the, and then all of a sudden you start seeing these fees and different surprises. That's why you want that in writing. And some of those hidden fees, I want Solomon, if you don't mind sharing with us a little bit about that. But that's kind of our next thing, is making sure that we know what some of those hidden fees are. In fact, I'm gonna, behind me here, I have on my board here, I'm gonna write down, we've got number one here, this PDI. Solomon, can you explain what PDI is?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is going to be the pre-delivery inspection. So this is going to happen every reputable RV dealership should be doing this. So this is where as soon as the RV comes in, like at RV Wholesalers, we get the RV in, we're going to do an inspection on it before it ever leaves the door, because you got to make sure. Sometimes it's just the little things that factories can miss. I mean, it could be as simple as sawdust in your sink, or these little things. And so that's where an RV dealer is going to clean it up, make sure that, the inside is, spick and span before it goes to the customer. And also, if they're a good dealership, they're going to check a lot of other stuff too. So they're going to, flood the roof, make sure that you're not starting off your first camping trip and you have leaks in your roof. They're going to flush your tanks. They're going to make sure, the electric works. They're going to test all of the major stuff. Good manufacturers will do this too. This is just a second step to just make sure that everything is perfect before it goes to you. And that's part of selling an RV. I mean, this is our product. We can't sell this if it's got mud trapped through it because other people have looked at it before you, and there's all these things wrong. So that's part of selling an RV, is we're going to do this inspection. Our dealers should do this inspection. And then the issue is when they start charging you ridiculous amounts of money for it. So like, I've heard one lady that they were going to do like a 3-day inspection before, and tests and stuff before they got the RV, and they're going to charge for that. So
how much are we talking, Solomon, in that example?
So for that one, it ended up being almost $1,500. So they can charge a lot for this. So just be really careful when they tell you about this, because oftentimes they'll tell you about it up front, but they won't give you the price. And then you show up and you ask for your trailer, and they're like, oh, well, so the PDI, this is actually going to cost you $1,500. And you wanted us to do this inspection, right? Like, you wanted us to go through your trailer and make sure there wasn't any issues, and that we cleaned this and we made it all nice for you, right? And we disinfected it. We sprayed it. Like, that's really difficult. We're going to charge you. And so just watch out for that, because it can be anywhere from a couple $100 to $1,500. So just, they shouldn't be charging you at all. Markian just asked, like this is just part of it. They shouldn't be charging.
Yeah, that's one we see a lot, especially in the bigger chains and stuff.
Mhm.
There's definitely money that pops up at the end. It seems like.
So to add some clarity there to Mark Ain's question, is like as far as a charge, you shouldn't be charged for it. It should be built into the cost of them doing business. Okay, it does cost money, obviously, because you're paying employees hourly wages go through and do those inspection processes. It's not a short. If you're doing it thoroughly, it's not a short time that it needs to be done. It takes some time to get that done, but it should be figured into the cost of what it takes them to do business and remain profitable. If they're passing that on to you, that means either one, they're undercutting their price on their unit so much that they can't afford to do it, or two, they're trying to squeeze you for more money than they should be. Okay, that's where there's a little bit of confusion sometimes on some of these fees. Is that there are fees that you can't avoid, right? You're going to pay for some things. You are. Then it's about transparency. Okay, and that's the biggest thing that when we talk about hidden fees, it's as part of that out the door cost. You should be aware of everything you're paying for from the start. They shouldn't be hidden, and they shouldn't be thrown at you last second with the expectation that you pay for something you didn't ask for. And
there are some fees that, like number 5 on the screen here, dock and title. I mean, that's a fee. Every state by law, like at least Ohio, it's a $295 fee that has to be paid to get the temporary tags and do all the paperwork. And that, each state's different, but those are fees but you want to know about those. Like there shouldn't be those surprises, like you were saying. That's good. I'm going to see this 5 hidden fees. I'm going to put this as a download. So in just a second, you'll see a button that will show up for you guys to download this. So let me share this with you guys. Okay. All right. So now you can download that. That's a PDF file, just a 1 page, but then you'll have the fees. And Dustin, can you talk about number 2 on here, which is transportation fees? I know this one gets a little confusing, and so I want you to explain that if you don't mind.
So this is another one that is going to be built in. It should be, okay, let me explain it like this. You're going to pay for transportation, factory freight, okay? That is a standard fee, and it's an agreed upon rate between manufacturer and dealership as to how the units are transported. Now, in a lot of cases, you're going to look at that number, okay, and it should be figured, what did we figure last time? Between $1.50, $2 a mile for standard factory freight shipping. That's going to seem jarring, even for most people, depending on how far away you are from a manufacturer, because you're used to paying factory freight, say on, I always say loaves of bread, but a really good example, like toilet paper, right? Every package of toilet paper that comes off a semi has a fuel surcharge and a factory freight charge to whoever's selling it. So the difference is you normally don't see it because it's a few cents and it's added in and it's built into the cost. Okay. Here, what we're talking about is going to be a lot more expensive because let's say almost every RV is manufactured, 90% in Elkhart and the surrounding counties, Indiana.
Yeah.
So let's say you're getting ready to buy in Washington State. You're roughly 2,800 miles from a dealer or from the factories. Now you're going to pay for that factory freight fee to get the unit there. It's unavoidable. It's part of doing the business. But what we're trying to warn people against is that it should be disclosed. You should know how much you're paying for it, and you should figure it up to make sure you're not getting gouged at like $3.54 a mile for what they would have to pay. It's not I promise you, it's not what the dealer is paying to get it there. Okay. And the other thing that I want to point out is the difference between factory freight and between delivery. So custom delivery is different. It's going to a house, and those are figured by third parties based on mileage, based on weight, and based on the kind of RV that's getting moved. Okay. And since they all have to be moved individually, that is an agreed upon rate with a third party. That's a different thing than factory freight. Okay. Factory freight, you are going to pay for. It's about making sure it's disclosed and that you're not overpaying for factory freight so that the company that you're buying from is making up margin dollars that way.
Yeah. So you should be able to do the math, like you said, if you're buying it in Naples, Florida, as I saw one of the guys, and he can do the math calculate the miles from there to Elkhart, Indiana. That'll tell you, and then multiply that 1.5.
I did this math last week for somebody, and it was that's why I used Washington, because it was the border between Oregon and Washington, something lakes area. Anyway, it was about 2,800 miles, and the factory freight to a local dealer, I figured should be no more than $3,200.
Yeah,
at about $1.50 a mile. And so we did the math to make sure that that was going to be the case, and it wasn't. So it made it a lot easier to decision as far as, or at least for them to negotiate a good rate to make sure they weren't getting gouged on that price.
That's nice. And just a little history on why we're even here today. The owners, and hopefully we'll get to bring in by video David Durnell, one of the owners and founders, but he was a school teacher. And so his desire for us was, hey guys, can you take time? I don't have time to share with all these people that I'd love to, kind of what's going on behind the scenes with this industry. And being a school teacher for 10 years prior to starting this place back in 97, he just thought it'd be a really nice gesture on our part, even though there's going to be 500,000-600,000 RVs sold this year in the industry. Only a few thousand are going to be able to be sold by RV wholesalers. So why not equip and train everybody and help everybody not be taken advantage of, and be able to find good dealers and all that. So whether that's with RV wholesalers or if that's a local dealer, wherever, we want make sure that you guys get your questions answered and you're equipped and get the best deal that you can during this time. So very cool. Well, how many of you guys, I'm going to put up a poll. I'm curious how many, this will be your first time buying an RV. So I'm going to put that up. But first, I know there's quite a number of people that have one. I saw one was a 2018 New Camp. They want to upgrade, one of our registrants, people like that want to trade in. So let's talk about trade-ins for a second. Solomon, can you give us what do you recommend? Because I see number 2 problem is not getting the most for your trade-in. So give us a little
definitely
recommendation on that.
So this is, I mean, thankfully, where we're at in the market right now, things are selling so quick. If you have a trade-in, honestly, it really makes more sense right now just to try to sell it yourself. You're going to get more money for it than any dealer is going to give you, period. So, there's a couple that might get you closer, but if you can sell it online yourself, you're going to get the most out of it. And then you're going to have more money going into the next RV, which is just going to save you more down the line. That's less interest. It's going to be more that you can pay off. And then, or you can get a bigger unit, something that you've been looking at for longer, and you're like, maybe I can't, I want to get that, but I don't have quite enough. And if you're able to get, 10,000, 5,000 extra off your trade-in, that might make that a lot more doable. So we typically, we just recommend, if you can, sell it yourself.
What's some good places to do that?
And the best places to do that are Facebook Marketplace is a surprisingly good one. You have Craigslist, can be great. And then the third one would be RV Trader. So I think I was looking at, I want to say it was only like $75 to list your trailer on there, something like that. So any of those 3. And don't be afraid to expand your sell radius. So a lot of people, because it's obviously you got to come pick it up, they're not willing to, people are willing to drive to get the RV they want, especially when it comes to specific used ones. They will come cross state, 2, 3, 4 states away. And whereas Robert actually asked kind of about something sort of similar, where it's like, okay, if I can get a better price out of state, is that, should I go with that? And it's really the same question. It's like, well, I mean, do you want to save money? How important is a few $1,000s to you? Because it can make a huge difference in price, especially like Dustin, was saying with the delivery and factory freight. If of the place in Washington is going to cost $3,000 some dollars plus for factory freight, and you're willing to drive, it's going to cost you a lot less. So you can save a ton of money, especially with motorhomes. Is another big thing that people don't think of. A lot of good dealerships, the bigger ones, will either pick you up or you can Uber to the site where you're buying your Class C, or Class A, whatever your motorhome is, and then you can just drive it back if they do the temporary plates. I know we do; it's pretty common. And then you're only doing one trip, and you're saving a lot of money on the actual freight, especially because motorhomes are bigger, heavier, harder to freight. They're going to be the most expensive units. So yes, exactly, Christina, you can fly and drive home, which will save you thousands of dollars. So, and which on a motorhome is really nice. That way you can use that camping. You can go to the spots on the way back. You can do a lot, especially like we're in the Midwest. No matter where you're at, all around the Midwest is beautiful. And then whether you're coming from the West or the South, there's going to be spots, you can camp any direction, especially, it just gives you more flexibility and fun. And if you're buying an RV, you're wanting to travel anyway. So
if any of you guys are in Nashville, Tennessee, I'm taking an RV, me and our co-host for our virtual RV show that's coming up in 2 weeks. Next week, we're taking an RV from Cleveland all the way down to Nashville, and it's only got a couple hundred miles. So we'll just deliver it right to your door if you want after we're done filming. So free delivery on Nashville for a Class C. Just has to be a Class C. That's all. No, anyways, I just did a poll. 70%. This will be your first time purchasing an RV. So congratulations on doing your homework. That's awesome. So 30%. I've already been doing this a little bit, and that's helpful, Solomon, figuring out how to do that. And so definitely. You guys are thinking about it.
We might have to do some filming up there. What are you looking for, Christina?
Hey, the weather's about to turn that way. We're not going to have up there. It gets cold enough here. Hey, I want to add one thing there to our used section. So as far as getting like trade-in versus selling yourself, that is a dual-edged sword too, because I know we've had a lot of questions in our polls leading up to webinars about buying used and what to look out for and making sure you're getting a good price. I'll tell you that for as much as it's a seller's market for used right now, that makes it not so much a buyer's market. Okay. Not to discourage people from going after used units, but you're going to see on average more units listed at their high book value than probably ever before. It's one of the reasons we've been unable to keep used units on our lot. We're a wholesaler. We sell at a rock bottom price all the time. Makes it really hard to buy used units when a customer can go out and get more than we can offer selling it privately. So that's another thing to keep in mind as you're hunting for units. Now, I know for a lot of people that one of the motivating factors for a used unit is one, if they know the person that they're buying it from, they've had experience with that camper. It's very comfortable to transition into it. Okay. The other thing that I've run into is if there's a specific floor plan that may have been discontinued and that fits the needs and the style of the camper or the users, that's another reason to go and check out a used unit. But I will say that it's definitely a seller's market for used units right now.
Yeah, we were just camping, Solomon and some friends. We were camping in end of October, or right in the middle of October, I guess. And another family came with us, the Calkins, and they were parking right beside us. They had a 28-foot whatever, and it was about 7 years old. And they came over and they saw this brand new Wildwood we had, and they're asking like, "How much is that?" And come to find out, they paid $15,500 for theirs used several years prior, and it was several years old. And we had the same brand new trailer that had all the amenities that they had in theirs. And it was brand new for $16,000. So, I mean, for them, it was eye-opening. It's like, are you kidding me? We could have had a brand new trailer for the same price we paid for used and not have all the little glitches that they had and have the latest technology and Bluetooth and, all this fun stuff that the new ones, 2021 came out with. So, yeah, definitely something to think about, especially like you said, Dustin, with the way the market is right now. There was a question. Let's see here.
Got a bunch of questions.
Yeah. Jolene, I was going to answer Jolene's question. Let's see. Where did that go?
Oh, RV from a show?
Oh, yeah. I wanted to talk about shows because shows are coming up, and that's a big deal because in my head, before I teamed up with you guys over the last few years, I always thought, oh, you go to the show, they have the big sales going on. Like, that's definitely the time to be really digging in and buying it. That's really the time to be kind of figuring out floor plans and stuff that you like, but not necessarily the time to buy. What we've seen is, in fact, RV wholesalers haven't even been to shows really for years and years. because of the fact that just to get into a show, the space that an RV takes in a show floor, I mean, you think about a trade show booth, that's 10 by 10, that's $2,500. Multiply that to get just one RV in, you're multiple thousands of dollars. And then if you bring 10 to the show, and then you've got all the people that have to clean it to get it there. And once it gets there, clean it again and bring it on, roll it in. And then you have salespeople on the floor for 3 days straight, and meals and housing. And I mean, it ends up being $100,000 to $250,000 expense for an RV dealership, like RV Wholesalers or whoever's presenting at these shows. And so that's why the prices are pretty inflated to cover that expense. So definitely a place to shop. And this year, probably not even a place to shop because most of them have been canceled. I know the big IX Center Cleveland show, which was a huge show, is canceled. And, a lot of shows are canceled. But yeah, so definitely not necessarily the best place to buy.
And there's also, when you're in person like that in a show setting, there's like a buyer's fever that sort of can happen. That while it can be beneficial to those selling them, it's not always in the best interest of the customer. I try to warn people off of going with their gut or their heart on making a decision like that, and go with your brain. So it's a good place, again, like Tim said, for comparison, for shopping, for familiarizing yourself with features and amenities that you like. But also, unless you're really well informed about where those models normally fall in price point, you're getting a good deal, it's probably better to get an idea, take a breath, walk away, and then make your decision. Okay. We try to make sure that people are well informed before they pull the trigger, because the last thing you want is to have that feeling of, did I make a good choice? We want you to have that before you leave. And that's why I know from a fact, like you can see it on people's faces sometimes, that they are excited about it in that moment, but is it the right thing for you? And that can happen at an RV show very, very easily. I've heard that story from customers many times, right?
Yep. I've talked to a few where it's like, oh, I was super excited. I bought this RV. It had one thing that I liked, and it didn't have any of the other features, but it was in that hype. And now they're selling a 2-year-old used motorhome because they bought it before they actually looked at it. And they had even done research before and figured out what they had wanted, and still ended up buying something different because of the hype. And they had a family member, mother-in-law there, and just kind of pushed them to that direction. And now they're selling it. So just the other thing is just make sure you're safe too. Just be careful with everything going on. I know some people are getting kind of tired of it, but make sure that you're staying safe too. That's why if you get thousands of people in a big RV show like that, just be careful. Yeah,
that's the nice thing about RVs. You can avoid all that. You don't have to stop at the rest areas when you're traveling. You don't have to cook, and you don't have to go into restaurants. You can cook your own, and it's really cool. I know I had to fly a number of weeks ago, and I couldn't believe that they were still putting us 3 in a people on my left and right. It was crazy. Dustin, can you look at Debbie Hill's question while you're doing that? I'm going to answer Darian on industry-wise, as far as keeping up. Is quality going down? Is, what's going on? So I went right to the factories and brought video cameras in. They let me into all the factories. No one said, hey, no filming. And we interviewed and we inspected and did all kinds of cool stuff. But the one thing that I heard 3 times from 3 of the factories reps is, we're really disappointed. There's a lot of dealers taking advantage of the times because they can, because the shortage is, they're just putting the prices and making a lot on each unit. And you could tell that it bothered them, but it was happening a lot more than they expected it to be happening. So there's definitely that you got to go watch out for. And Dustin, do you want to talk about how pricing works? And Solomon and I were just having this discussion about MSRP, and there's kind of just kind of all over the board. So how do you figure out what's a good price on that?
Well, I'll answer this sort of in a couple of parts. First, with Debbie's question, I want to answer that here for everybody. And that is that no matter what kind of large retail purchase you're making, it doesn't matter if it's an RV, a car, a truck, a side-by-side, an ATV, a motorcycle, they all depreciate immediately. Okay. It's not just a car thing. It's not just an RV thing. Okay. What your goal should be is to pay as close to wholesale pricing as possible so that that feels less impactful. One of the problems is MSRP. Okay. Because MSRP is it's basically a suggestion from the manufacturer for where to list a product. Okay. And because of that, that number is sort of a made up inflated number that is not required, right? It's not a mandatory listed number. It doesn't have to cost that. It's built so that you can receive discounts. You can play with the pricing so that the profits are good for an individual dealer. Okay. When you're paying an MSRP pricing and then you leave, that depreciation is incredibly painful.
Yeah.
Because by the next year, you've lost 20% value, right? Even more in some cases. So I would warn against looking at MSRP pricing as like the golden standard. One of the things that I do recommend for people, especially those who are getting into buying used, because we've covered this sort of up, down, and sideways, but so I think who was it also sort of answering Darren's question, there's what we call high book and low book pricing in the NADA guides. In a typical year, most used units that you shop for across the nation are going to be closer to that low book pricing. Okay. Exceptional condition, they may be a little bit above low book pricing, but that's sort of where they're going to fall. In a year like this, where it's an incredible seller's market and lots of people are buying and getting into used units, almost everything that we've seen is being listed at high book and even above high book. That is extremely rare. Okay. That is sort of a guideline for where you would want to price. And that we even help people with that too. I was going to ask you guys,
do you mind if I throw up on the screen your information? Do you guys mind if they want to just know what their used one is, or they have a pricing question? Because you guys have that huge NADA book that comes out every month or whatever, right? That you can they can email you. So here, let me get your information up here. Okay. So here's Dustin Bray's extension 133, D Bray RV Wholesalers. Here's Solomon's extension 149, S Richardson RV Wholesaler. So either one of you guys can just, if they say, hey, I have this trailer, what's it worth? You can tell them the low book price, the high book, all that. Okay, cool.
To sort of to John's question there, and I'm going to have to get, unless Solomon, you remember it, I don't remember the maximum length for national parks.
It's 30 feet.
30 feet? Okay.
And that was one of the things, the buyer that bought Class C, she bought it at 32, and she knew she wanted a 30 or lower, so she could go to the national parks. She didn't check that. So national parks, 30 feet or less. And it can be 2911 if you're good.
Yep. So, and then with the other thing with like our used units there that I wanted to touch on for everybody is there's always an inherent risk with buying used, and that you don't know the service record for that vehicle. Okay. No, even if it's somebody you know, or even if it's somebody you feel good about and they're being honest, they may not know that there's an issue, an underlying issue. Okay. So I would always be cautious about that. One of the things that we recommend is educating yourself a little bit on what kind of inspection you should do to carry out to make sure that you know what you're looking for. There's about 1 million things we could cover in terms of what you should look for. Educate yourself, take some time. YouTube tutorials exist. Make sure that you are able to go and inspect the unit yourself for any possible future problems. Okay. And then to go along with that, when you're buying used, you're not buying from a dealer, and you're not buying it warranties, extended warranties. None of that's coming along with it. So those are the things to keep in mind. With the way it is right now, buying new is probably more beneficial for a lot of people than buying used, especially for those newer people or people who haven't owned RVs in the past, because they may not have any experience with working out some of those simple bugs, some of the simple troubleshooting that you're going to run into as you travel. That's why having an experienced service center or an experienced service department backing your dealer can be very beneficial. Even if it's just talking you through how to troubleshoot an issue, there's somebody there.
That's mistake number 5. One of the big ones, not paying attention to service. And so we'll dive into that and talk about warranties and service contracts and all that kind of stuff. I want to talk about the finance side, though. That's kind of a big thing, figuring out, understanding RV terms and all that. So Dallas Henry, he's specialist, been doing this at least 10 years, managing the finance and inside here at RV Wholesaler. So I'll shot a little video of him in the sales room the other day and want him to share with us that exact question about understanding, because that's one of the mistakes. People just don't understand RV terms and how those work. So let's do that. Here we go, Dallas.
Hey guys, Dallas Henry here. I'm going to talk to you guys today a little bit about financing an RV, a couple of the tips, tricks, things you might need to know. One big thing a lot of people don't know is when it comes to RVs is term. Term with recreational vehicles can be a lot longer than what most people are used to, especially financing cars and things like that. One big thing to remember is generally they'll go out to sometimes 20 years. I know it seems crazy to some people, but it's quite a long time. They want to make that payment really manageable. Now with recreational vehicles, if you have pretty good credit, longer term often means better rate, which is kind of flips everything on its head of whatever everybody really knows. Again, when it comes to cars and mortgages and things like that. Because generally with those type of items, the shorter term generally means better rate. Okay? With RVs, remember, that's not always the case. If you got pretty good credit, normally the longer term, better rate. So that's one big thing to remember when you're going to finance a recreational vehicle. So keep that in mind as you go. Again, just to recap, long term, good credit, typically a little bit better rate. So keep that in mind. Don't be afraid of that longer term. Even if you want to pay it off a little earlier, that's okay. They are simple interest loans. At least they should be. With all of our lenders, they are simple interest loans. So you can pay the loan off a little bit earlier. Okay, if you guys so choose you want to do it. And you can apply more money to principal. That'll have you paying at least a lot less interest over the term of that loan, whatever the term you decide it is. Once you lock in a deal with a bank or lock in a deal with a dealer, you can change how fast you pay it off. You can change how much money you throw towards the interest and the principal and things like that. One thing you can't change is the rate. So remember that. You always want to get the best rate, and a lot of times that is longer term. Okay. Another thing to remember is don't ever tie your recreational vehicle loan to your house. A lot of people think, hey, really good rates with my home equity loan. Put a lot of work into this house. I want to use that equity. Not a real good, wise idea. I'm not a financial analyst by any stretch of the imagination. But what I will tell you is when the proverbial hits the fan, and things happen. As so many people know in 2020, there's a lot of things that have happened this year that no one expected to happen. One thing that can happen is you can lose your job. You can have time off, things that you might not be getting the money you thought you were getting. So in that situation, the last thing you want to have happen is you not be able to make your RV payment and that be tied to your house, because now if something happens, they're not coming to just get your RV, they're coming to get the house now too. So don't risk your family, don't risk your livelihood, don't risk your finances by doing something like that. It's something to really remember.
Yeah, if you guys want to carry that on a little bit. Thanks.
Yeah, you just got to be careful when you're financing. And like you said, it's kind of crazy. Sometimes you can get a better rate on longer terms too. And then just be responsible, pay it off more, and then you could save yourself interest and time.
That's what's cool. So if you got a 20-year term and you purpose to pay it off in 5, that 5 years would be cheaper than if you had a 5-year term and paid it off in 5. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
that it's set up that way. Yeah. So there's a big secret coming up that if you guys have hung out with us this long, you're going to want to hear this, because this will save you a lot of money. And this is mistake number 4, is not knowing the big dealer financing secret. So what's going on at dealerships, and tell me the secret.
Yeah. So with this, I didn't know this until I came to RV Wholesalers either, because nobody tells you this up front, because they don't want to lose this leverage. So what's going on is anytime that a company, whether that be it, boat, RV, car, is selling even, furniture and stuff, are selling loans, or at least being a go-between between you and a loan company, they're getting a finder's fee, or we call it a dealer reserve, but essentially a finder's fee for bringing that loan to them.
You guys are being too nice. I call it a kickback.
It's like,
But no,
okay,
it's legal.
yeah.
It's legal. But
It's legal because you're bringing business to them. You know,
Right.
just as like, you know, you pay on anytime there's ads. You know, people are paying for the ads to get people to their site, and then that's where they make money. So, so you're finding this business for them, and then they're getting a kickback. So so like one of the things we do is, and again, this isn't small. You know, people think, okay, yeah, a couple $100 for a loan here or there, cool. You know, that makes sense. But this is thousands of dollars on bigger loans. Yeah. So on, you know, RVs, boats, things like that, this can be thousands of dollars. Anywhere from common ones, like for most of our trailers, it's $2,000 to $4,000 on bigger, you know, motorhomes, and up into like the big fifth wheels, it can be $6,000 to $10,000, I think, on some of these, because they kind of bracket it. So it depends on, like, just because you're spending $5,000 more on a loan doesn't mean you're necessarily they're gonna get that much. The dealership is gonna get that much more. So that's why it's kind of in chunks, but. Yeah, it's thousands of dollars that they're making on the back end of the financing. So when you go to your dealership, you're like, well, I'm willing to finance. How much more can you give me off? Because
they're kind of hold that card to the end.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, you can hold it to the end. That's just another card in your toolbook, you know. Nice. So yeah, just watch for that, because again, it's thousands of dollars that they're making. And so a lot of people will be like, oh, you know, can I get a cash discount? Which is something we don't offer. We offer financing discounts, which is kind of counter for a lot of people. They're like, well, shouldn't I save more if I'm buying straight out? No, because you're financing, because we're getting this from the bank, you know, we're able to give you this money. And then typically that's for shorter term. So like you need to hold that for a year. Like, so if
Dustin,
you are looking like that, you want to go over that, Dustin? Because
yeah, Dustin, explain, because I know there's some people here, they've been saving, they've been planning for this RV retirement. We're going to go out west, going to see some awesome sites, going to go to these national parks with my 30-foot motorhome or whatever. But they've, you know, so they've been wise, and then now they have the cash and are ready to pull the trigger, and it's the time. And what? How do they?
Oh, you muted.
Rewind.
Yep, got it. I guess I leaned on it. I don't know. The best way to do this is you find out how much of that money, you're going to get back when you finance, right? You hold that card and you ask, and then you ask, what's the penalty for early payoff? Can I pay the loan off early? Okay. So if you use all three strategies, what Dallas suggested being the longest term possible to get the lowest rate possible, asking for your financing discount or dealer reserve, whatever they're going to call it, the business from the bank side of the business. How much of that money can I expect as a discount? And then can I pay this loan off early? Because now you have all three things you need to get the very best price possible. What I would recommend for cash buyers who legitimately want to pay off as rapidly as possible, they don't want to have a monthly payment for if they can avoid it, is very simple. Finance. Do exactly what we said. Finance for as long as possible. Get as much of a discount as you can through the financing discount, and then pay aggressively towards a 1-year payoff. Most of those banks are not paying out to the dealer the financing discount, the expected cash, until that first year has concluded. Okay. The strategy is that they want to get people that are going to make their payments, going to make them on time, and then they're going to reimburse the dealer for bringing them good business. Okay. So after that first year, if you have no early payoff penalty, you can pay it off. The dealer's still going to get their cash, so you're going to keep your discount, and you can be done. The way that we recommend going about this, if you were dealing with us, what we would recommend is on your first payment that you receive from the bank, the very first statement, make your normal monthly payment and pay off everything but the remaining 11 months of that year. Okay, so calculate it out, take your equal monthly payments, multiply it by 12, pay off everything else. Okay.
Yeah.
It's all going directly to principal. You're going to have simple interest loans on 11 more payments. Okay. In, let's say, an average case, I did the math for this earlier today, $200 monthly payment, around 8% interest. You're going to have $250 to $300, depending on how much you pay down and what your actual monthly payment is. $250 to $300 in interest to get
So you're going to throw away $250, but
to get $2,500 or more as a cash discount. Okay. So that's the recommendation. I know a lot of people ask, what's the hook? Why would you do this? Our goal is to get you out the door for as little amount of money as possible. Okay. The banks make money hand over fist every day. Our goal is to get our customers out the door with as little money out of their pocket as we can, and the best strategy for payoff for them. So it's very important for us that we would know what's your plan, how aggressive do you want to be. We want to get you out the door as quickly as we can with as little of your hard-earned money being spent. The banks understand this too, because for every customer that does an early payoff, they're going to have 20 or 40. They're going to pay the entire term and make all their on-time scheduled payments and still have a good deal and a new RV, right? So their goal is to get people financed. That's their goal. The more people that buy from them, the better. The same thing they're volume dealers. That's what a bank is. Big banks are volume dealers.
That's good. Let's move into number 5, which you already mentioned, which is not checking out service and wait times. Christy just asked this question about service, and I'm going to fire it up to David Durnell, one of the founders of RV Wholesalers. I want you to meet him via video here in just a second, and then we'll come back and answer some questions and talk in more detail about that and warranty work and how this works. So here's David. Let's see if we can get him in here. You may have to turn up your volume on this one.
Hey guys, glad to help. I've kind of been serving people or helping people my entire life. It's kind of how we were raised, I guess you could say, to put other people first, take care of other people. So when we started the dealership, it was sort of a natural for me, especially if you look at my teaching background. I taught for 10 years. I've always enjoyed teaching people new things. I've always enjoyed helping people, both professionally, personally, etc. Taking care of kids and stuff was such a joy, such a pleasure. So when Mike and I opened up this dealership, it just kind of sort of wasn't even a choice. We're going to focus on the people that we sell to. We're going to take care of them. We're going to treat them like family. And again, that's just how we were raised. I remember we'd been selling for a few years, and we had the idea of putting a used unit on eBay, and it did really well. We put another one, and long story short, through the winter months, we had sold all of our used units. And in the spring, we thought, I wonder if people would buy a new unit. So we put a new unit on eBay, and a crazy thing happened. A guy from Iowa bought it. Put another one up. A guy from Texas bought it. And we thought, man, we've stumbled onto something here. And I never will forget my dad came in to check on us, see how we were doing, just to visit. And we were telling him how great this thing was, right? We're going to be able to sell RVs all across the U.S., it appears, through eBay. And I'll never forget, he just kind of looked at us and he said, you guys started selling because of service, right? You did service first? Yeah, of course, Dad. So service the most important thing? Yeah. Well, how are you going to service people that aren't even in your state? And it was kind of a low moment, it sort of like sucked the wind out of us. And we kind of regrouped for a couple of days and thought about it, even prayed about it. And then the idea popped in our head, hey, what if we found someone in each person's hometown to take care of them? And fast forward 23 years later, that's our nationwide service network. And now we're able to sell to people all across the U.S., all across Canada, and take care of every single one of them. And I think one of the things we're most proud of is that we've never had a customer not get serviced anywhere in the U.S. or Canada. We've always been able to find someone to take care of them and someone to meet their needs, And
That's good. Because that's a big question. It's about how do you take care of, I know we saw that earlier. It's like, how do I get service if I'm here? Can you guys explain that nationwide service network a little bit more detail?
Sure. Yeah. So we've got, this is something we've built up over, like you're saying, the last 23 years. And so now that includes over 2,900 different service centers across the US and into Canada. So there's going to be typically there's 3, 4, 5, 6 places close to you that will have. Some of the more Western states, it's a little bit more scarce. But again, that's also there's not as many cities either. So
it's not just service centers; it's mobile service guys that if it's air conditioner problem. Yeah. So you may be camping in Florida, AC goes out, you're at all hunkered down in a trailer, in a RV park, and one call to the hotline, and they find someone that can come out in the next hour to your site and fix your air conditioner. And it may be a specialist that just specializes in AC. It's not necessarily take it to an RV dealer somewhere. So that's pretty cool.
So a really common question there is how do you go about receiving service like that, right? So you're 3 states away from where you live and where you're registered with your RV. What do you do, right? So the way that we handle it is that a customer, you just call us. We're going to handle setting up the appointment, finding you a repair service, and getting you where you need to go, or bringing them to you if it's possible. And then, if you think about how warranties work, right? How is it that I would call this HVAC guy who will work on RVs? How is he going to get reimbursed from a factory? The issue is he's not, okay? We're paying out front for the work to be done. And if it's a warrantyable issue with our factories or our warranty companies, we're being reimbursed on your behalf. All right.
Yeah, because normally the process, no matter where you take it and it's warranty work, they expect you to pull out your credit card, even though it's a warranty issue, 1 year in or 3 years in or whatever the number is. And they want you to pay for it. And then you wait and try to get that money from the factory, which that is hard to get. I mean, as much work as we do with the factories, we have that relationship and we know the numbers and the people to call and the things to say to get the money. Whereas good luck with that.
And the other option too is if you are going, let's say you bought a Forest River brand RV in Kentucky, and now you're in South Dakota, and you go to a local Forest River dealer, they may offer to work on it, right? But the motivation for them to put you at a high priority, right, is very low, because even if they're doing the work and they're being reimbursed directly, they know they have to wait on that money. But if they have paying jobs coming in first, that's how I know a lot of people feel like they're low priority when that sort of stuff happens. That's how it happens. They're revenue-based businesses just like anybody else. So a mobile RV repair service is not going to jump in on warranty work unless they're being paid up front. It's just how it's going to work.
Yeah, that's interesting. And that, like you were saying, guys, you're not camping near your local dealerships a lot of times. So, I mean, pretty much never. I mean, you're always going away,
That's for the motorhomes.
Yeah.
That's where it makes the biggest difference, I think, especially is the motorhomes. And like Dustin was saying, even if they are a Forest River dealer, they'll typically will work on it, but they have no incentive to put you at the front of their queue. And so that's one of the things that we try to do is we'll call multiple ones near you and figure out where can we get you in the fastest and get you service. So
in the RV show that we're doing coming up, the virtualrvshow.com. If you guys want to register, I'll plug that for a second. Let me type that in here. So during this show, we're going to, one of the things I want to do is on my way down to Nashville, I want to stop at a few different RV dealerships and see how long, and pretend like I have an issue and see how long how far the queue is. Is it 12 weeks? Is it 14 weeks? I just want to hear, like go in with the hidden camera and just see what, when you're trying to get in for service at these dealerships, these local dealerships, like what that looks like. It'd be kind of fun. But anyways, so I just put up the information for Virtual RV Show. If you go there, you can register for the giveaways. So we're giving away, don't tell anybody, but we got a PS5 with the disc and everything. Like, it's super rare to get. That's one of our items that we're giving away. So some happy kid is or someone's going to be the next Santa Claus.
Heck, I'm going to register now.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, that's a good point. I'm glad you reminded me because I want to make sure that we say no employees or whatever in the fine print.
Yeah.
So, Dustin, we better register fast.
Yep. Yeah. Check out this picture here. Check out this. So this picture is a reminder. I threw this in here because I was like, we got to remind these people, like, you can actually order an RV before Christmas. And that's about how much, with the way things are and what I saw at the factories, to be ready for spring camping, you pretty much need to put some pictures in a box, put them under the tree and say, hey, we're buying you an RV, even if you don't have it all worked out. But now's the time to really kind of make that decision. So I'm glad you guys are doing the homework now, just so that you can be ready for spring. I mean, some of the factories I talked to are 26 weeks out production because they don't want to sacrifice quality. So they just keep cranking them out at their pace, and with all their inspections, everything, they haven't shorted anything. In fact, I think they're actually getting better quality wise, honestly, because typically when they're building them in short little runs, and they're switching like every day. They're switching to a new model because they have 200 models, or one factory may have 20 different models that they run through a factory, but they're switching more often. Now they're cranking out, multiple days so that they're more focused and more, the inspections and everything are all the same. And so I actually think the quality is up from previous years, honestly. And but it's nice that you guys have like little pockets in queue. So if someone says, hey, I want to order this and I need a custom, it's nothing that you have on your lot right now, you can get in there and have it before spring. So anyways, just a fun little picture to, as you guys are thinking about buying, how if you have grandkids and kids, that can make it a nice fun surprise. So anyhow, let's talk about understanding warranties, or service contracts. They're officially called, a little different than warranties. Dustin, if you want to dive into that and the two types. So
as a general rule, there are basically two types of extended warranty or service contract that you're going to be looking into when you buy an RV. First is stated warranty. So what a stated warranty is exactly what it sounds like. They are stating the coverage for you that you can expect on that RV. So they will list all the let's say the possible issues that can go on. They will list all the ones that are covered. Stated warranties look really nice because they may give you a list of 30 or 40 items that they're going to cover on that on that RV for however long. And so it looks really nice up front. What they're not telling you in a stated warranty is out of that list, maybe 20 to 50 items that they're covering, there are 1,000 or 2,000 things that can go wrong with an RV. I know we have about 70% new RVers in our chat right now. For anybody who's an experienced RVer, you know that about every trip out, something, whether it's big or small, usually small, but something doesn't work, or something needs to be looked at, or something goes slightly wrong. That's just how RVing is. It's part of the fun, honestly, is that you got to be adaptable to your circumstances. But that list is incredibly long of possible things that can go wrong. It's a house on a chassis and axles rolling down the road. Okay. There will be things that go wrong. Why we prefer the second kind of coverage, which we call exclusionary warranties, is because an exclusionary warranty tells you the things that aren't covered, knowing that everything else on that list is covered. So they give you a handful of items that aren't going to be covered under the warranty, typically as human error or acts of God, right? And then everything else would be covered. Now, if you had those invisible lists of the 1,000 to 2,000 things that can go wrong side by side, you'd realize that you're usually getting a lot better deal for exclusionary warranties. Okay. And it's up to your individual dealer as you're going about shopping, find out what kind of coverages they have, whether it's stated or exclusionary. And then I would firmly recommend that you find out whether you're going to be buying, how the extended warranties are packaged. Okay. Like, for instance, we do basically an a la carte plan where we offer our extended warranties in separate pieces that you can purchase the pieces that make sense for you, versus, say, universal coverage or lifelong coverages. Those are usually group packages, so you're paying for everything, even though you may never, let's say you buy a destination trailer and it sits in one location 8 months of the year. You're rarely on the road. Why are you paying for wheel and tire or over-the-road warranty coverage? It doesn't make sense. So those are the things that I firmly recommend that you look into when you're talking with whether it's a salesperson or a financing officer or a warranty officer, finding out stated, exclusionary, or and then how are the warranties packaged.
No, that's good. Yeah, thanks. I was always taught as a kid, oh, don't waste your money on the little extra coverage when you check out at Walmart or wherever, and they ask you, do you want to add that? But when you start talking about a house going down the road at 70 miles an hour, banging around and all that stuff, I didn't realize until I started digging in. This is just one of the companies that RV Wholesalers uses quite a bit, Protective, but I got this report from the head of our insurance group, Drew Green, and it was just a 1 month report of all the payouts of claims basically that was done on behalf of RV Wholesalers, people that had actually opted for this coverage. And it was just fascinating to read down through here, just looking at AC and ventilation, $1,565, AC and ventilation, refrigeration, $2,487. I mean, these are just real claims, and that's the key. You want to make sure whatever company you go with and whoever's writing the paper for this coverage is solid. Like you can do the AM Best ratings. You can check out. You really need to do your homework on. Just because you trust the dealership, you got to also make sure you trust the people they're writing these with, and because the bottom line is you want to make sure they're paying when it's time to pay. And like you said, exclusionary is the best way you want to be able to do that. And the cool thing is these can be wrapped into your financing, so that can be part of your monthly payment. And the nice thing too, if you ever go to upgrade to a bigger trailer or you outgrow it, your family gets bigger, whatever, you can transfer that with the sale of it. So it's another selling point, which is nice, especially people getting into a used one. Now it comes with a warranty. And
I would like to point out for people who, like, whether you're a new buyer to RVs or this isn't exclusive to RVs. It's appliances, it's vehicles, it's furniture, it's everything. And that is what manufacturing warranties really cover. And 99.9% of the time, a manufacturing warranty that you get from the factory is going to cover manufacturing defects only. Okay. So it has to be provable that it was defective from the factory for you to get any coverage on that side. It's one of the reasons that I do recommend looking at extended warranties. If for nothing else, for the larger, higher end paying portions. So like we just covered there, the AC, ventilation, refrigeration, the things that are really cost prohibitive to get repaired or replaced. Extended warranties are nice there because even those manufacturing warranties, even if they sound nice because they might give you, most of them are 1 year, right? But let's say they say, oh, we're going to give you a 3-year manufacturing warranty. It has to be proven that it's manufacturing and not normal wear and tear or user error or human error that caused the damage or caused the failure. So that gets really hairy. That's why I firmly recommend looking at extended warranties and checking out the service record for wherever you're buying from. That's regardless of what you're purchasing.
Yeah, no, good stuff, guys. I'm going to put up your contact information again. So if people, well, you guys are working today, what, till 5 Eastern time or so?
A couple more hours.
Phone calls. So email anytime, of course, and probably can catch them on the phone today if you have more questions. I wish we could get to all these questions. It's been great. Thank you guys for taking time for the questions. As a thank you, I do want to give you a little special something. Those that are really quite far along in the process of buying an RV, the owner said that I could offer a $500 delivery credit. So if you want this thing delivered to your driveway or to your storage unit, whatever, we can give you a $500 credit that will go towards that if you end up putting a deposit in, which your deposits are what, $1,000 or something. Typically. Once you know what you want, and that kind of thing, as far as that. So I'm going to give the details on how. So if someone wants that, all you have to do is type up an email to either one of these guys, S. Richardson at RV Wholesalers, Bray at RV Wholesalers, with the subject 500, and we will make sure that you get that. I'm putting that in the chat too. There you go. Okay. Yeah. So just make sure you put 500 in the subject, and if that works out for you guys, great. And man, we just want to say goodbye and good job on hanging with us and learning a bunch of things. We're going to keep digging up more stuff that we can share with you to help you on in this whole process. I'm working on some stuff right now with one of the big manufacturers. Hopefully next week I'm going to have some training going on that we'll invite you guys to, and we're going to keep diving in so you make good decisions. So have a nice holiday season and Christmas, and hopefully we'll see you at the RV show as we head to Nashville. It's going to be fun. So we'll catch you guys later. Thanks, Dustin and Solomon. Appreciate you taking time. I know it's a busy time and lots of other things to do with taking care of customers, but appreciate it. So
no problem.
See y'all.
Have a good day, guys.
Sure.
Yeah. God bless.
Yep. Take care.